Welcome to School's Out 80s Comedy Story Time.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of School's Out 80s Comedy Storytime. Got a really special guest to us, coming to us all the way from Long Island, Ray Cockabelli. Say hello to everybody at School's Out 80s.
What's up from New York, yo?
Awesome, man. Man, Ray, so glad to have you on the show. Awesome, man. Awesome. So glad to have you on the show. Folks, you just do not know how funny Ray is. I had the pleasure of spending time with Ray and his family about 2 years ago, and Ray cracked me up 24/7. In fact, I'm going to do a little bit different than I normally do on the show, where I kind of make it sequential, like tell us a funny story from middle school, grade school, high school. Ray, you just told me one of the funniest jokes I've ever heard. Why don't you start the show out with your joke?
Sure. And it's funny, John, because my wife is literally walking across right here. It was this week. Jen, remember John Sandstone? So I was telling John the other night, I went out with that girl the other night. Remember, you gave me permission?
Yeah, sure.
And we ended up in bed, me and this girl. And, as I wake up, I see this picture of face. I'm telling this joke in front of my wife, John. So this picture is facing me. And I said to the girl, I said, is that your husband? She goes, no, silly. She goes, is that you? She wants to go eat. She going into the deli? She goes, is that your boyfriend? I said, no, silly. That's not my boyfriend. I said, well, who is this guy? That was me before the sex change. John, I couldn't get out of this woman's house fast enough. I just, it never happened to me before. Never happened to me.
Well, she probably had bigger hands than you did.
She did. When she knew more about the Mets than I did, it should have been a giveaway.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do?
Right.
That's probably why my wife was okay with it. She probably knew.
I just love that joke. Okay, Ray. So we got to get everybody knowing you a little bit here. So Ray went to high school right in the Manhattan, New York area. And I'm sure, Ray, like you could think of a funny story from high school, right?
Absolutely. We used to do. So I went to boarding school for 2 years because I was so mischievous in my high school. One time we took dirt bikes and started ripping up the field. So me and two friends got expelled. Not expelled. We got suspended. But my father, to punish me, sent me to boarding school.
Okay.
Which, man, I was in 10th grade. You just set me loose with a whole bunch of women. They thought it was a punishment. I was living life, and we used to do panty raids. So we used to. It was like probably like it was a small school. It's probably like maybe 150 students. Where it was like 90 guys, and the rest were women. So
how many students?
Like 150, because it was living on campus.
Oh, okay.
We lived on campus. We had dormitories. You had a guy. We had and so all the teachers also lived on campus. So at night, if you needed extra help, you'd call up the teacher, because we had study hall every night between like 6 to 8 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And you could go to the library, but your dorm room doors had to be open, so you couldn't smoke pot and do all that stuff. But your doors had to be open, and but you could go to a teacher's house and get extra credit.
Oh, wow. I guess so.
I had a teacher that was a Spanish teacher and my baseball coach, and his name was Jack America. So I used to go like 2-3 times a week and have dinner with Jack America and his family during like study. We'd just be hanging out, watching TV,
Right.
And he'd, tutor me a little bit. He'd be like, at the dinner table, he asked me a couple of words in Spanish, and that was, but I just hang out with Jack America. and his family, and it was great. And they lived right next door to the dorm. And
Was this in New York? Where was the boarding school at?
it was in so it was in Storm King, New York,
Okay.
halfway between New York Military Academy and West Point.
Oh, okay.
So we used to go to a lot of concerts at West Point. We were half an hour away. So Joan Jett played there, the Stray Cats played there.
Nice.
And then we had our own mountain with 3 peaks right on campus. We had our own mountain that was donated to us. So we used to go camping on the mountain, go look for fresh water on the mountain. We used
That
to go
is cool.
take
So that sounds
down
like
the
upper
Delaware
state New
River.
York, right?
What was that?
Is that like upper state New York?
It's upper state New York. It's about 2 hours from Manhattan.
Okay.
2 hours from Manhattan. About an hour and a half from Long Island. And like near Newburgh, that area, Storm King, Newburgh, Peekskill.
Okay.
But it was great. Absolutely. My father thought it was a punishment. But so the panty raids were the best. So after a while, the girls finally learned, because you had to come back with a panties or else you get in big trouble. Right?
Absolutely.
The other guy.
Yeah.
You had to go bang on the doors and force the girl. So what the girls started doing, they would just hang their panties outside the door, like if they got wind. Because we go bang on the doors, panty raid, and they just have to throw their underwear out the door. So after a while, they got smart, and they was just hang them on the doorknob, so we wouldn't bang on the door.
That's funny, Ray. So it's a co-ed. It's a co-ed boarding school.
It was a co-ed boarding school called Storm King School.
Interesting.
Yep.
Wow. Any famous people go to that school with you?
Ben Vereen's son, American dancer.
Okay.
His son Benji, Ben Jr. went there.
Okay.
And the famous actor Anthony Quinn, who made the movies Over the Greek, and the Broadway plays Over the Greek, and many other movies. His son Lorenzo went there, and his sons all turned out to be actors. Lorenzo, Daniel. Daniel was in a lot of like those, I forget, like those, that was in like those FBI movies, like Law and Order. He did all those FBI 911. And
say that again. You said Lorenzo. Lorenzo. What's Lorenzo's last name?
Quinn.
Oh, okay. Anthony Quinn's son.
Anthony Quinn's son.
Wow, that's a big deal.
He's the one that looked the most like the father. When we go out, people be like, "You look like somebody," but I can't, And he's like, "I look like Anthony Quinn."
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you look like, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm his son," and nobody believed him.
Okay.
And back then we didn't really, have IDs or anything, so he started walking around with his Italian passport just to prove that because he got tired, because he looked exactly like the father. If you look him up on Facebook.
Yeah.
Lorenzo Quinn, you'll see that he looks exactly like the father did.
Like his dad? Wow. Wow,
exactly
that's wild.
like the father.
Okay, so I got to ask, I got to segue a little bit. So we're going on panty raids. Did we go in on any like formal dates when we were in boarding school?
Absolutely. But the formal dates took place on the peaks.
Right. I bet they did.
On the mountain peaks.
Yeah.
Because it was they didn't approve of it too much. But, after 10, 11 at night, because there was a counselor on every floor.
Okay.
So once you saw the counselor's light go out, you could leave. They didn't give
so you guys just left the building, huh?
We just left the building.
And the girls were cool with that? The girls just met you out on the mountain somewhere?
Dude, we would take the furniture out of the common room, which was a whole separate building with a fireplace. One time we took all the furniture out of the common room and set it up on one of the buildings of the roof. So everybody came out in the morning. All the furniture was set up exactly like was on the roof of a building.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Underwear's hanging. So when you scored, to hang the underwear from the flagpoles.
Okay.
So in the morning we could count. How many people, and people like, oh, it was this one and that, and everybody would guess. Yeah. And there weren't too many people.
Good.
Right?
That's good.
And there'd always be a guy that would look up and be like, that looks like my girlfriend's underwear.
That's fun. That's not good, right?
I wasn't with her last night.
That's not good. Okay, so you get
You
out of
thought she was
boarding
your
school.
girlfriend.
So any funny dates that you had like post boarding school?
Post boarding school. Oh
Hmm.
my God. I was a bartender for a while for this place.
Okay.
And um, a woman had come in that she was a lawyer.
Okay.
And, I guess she was, the connection was when she was drunk, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, when she was drunk, we like kind of made a connection. I guess we kissed or whatever. So we go out on a date.
Yeah.
And on the date, I felt like I was like on an interview, like a job interview. So what books have you read lately? What, have you, do you read the New York Times? Do you read the Wall? I'm like, I read the fuckies. Like,
Right.
I'm not, this is a lawyer, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
like a, really smart lawyer. She actually bartended as well at, where she bartended? A place called uh, Cristiano's.
Okay.
You ready for this? Cristiano's is where Billy Joel wrote Piano Man.
Oh, that's cool.
That was the place where
Wow.
he wrote piano. He was a piano player there.
Yeah.
And there's a plaque in the place. And I went to see her there a couple of times. I think before we actually went out on the date. And it was always involved around drinking. But when we were actually like, she was like, I'm like, I don't want to date you. I just want to, tonight I want to date you. Like she's looking for a boyfriend. She was looking for like a boyfriend.
Right. Right.
Do you read the New York Times? What books have you read? Like, I don't read books. I'm partying all day and drinking all night. I
That's
wake up,
funny.
go to work, drink as a bartender, go fall asleep, wake up. I was in my early 20s. What do
That's
living
awesome.
life. But
Yeah.
this one was
Yeah.
like, she was like into me. I drove her home. That's like,
Oh,
that was the
you're
first
done
time
with that date,
that
huh?
was the first time I ever ended a date early.
Hey, you were telling me about kind of a dynamic that you had. I think it might have been in high school, maybe in the Manhattan area, where you might have had some cultural differences with some of the women you dated.
Oh yeah, it was Manhasset, not Manhattan,
Uh,
Manhasset Hills. So
okay.
we lived in New Hyde Park, Long Island, Garden City Park. Really, it was Garden City Park, New Hyde Park. The post office, New Hyde Park, but it was considered Garden City Park.
Yes.
And Garden City Park was right on the outskirts of a school district. Now, we grew up, upper middle class. My father had his own business, was also a salesman, sold pharmaceuticals. Became the president of the company,
Oh, wow.
and one of the partners. Big pharmaceutical. So he did sales always. Sold blood
Okay.
plasma, the whole 9 yards. He'd go New York Blood Bank. He'd go to Hawaii. He always traveling salesman. Um, so, but the school district that I went to was mostly like Manhasset Hills. We were like the poor side of town. Even though we're upper middle class, we're the poor side. There was a much richer and upper
You're
class.
upper middle class, but there are people that just were a little higher.
Yep,
I get
yep.
it.
And so a lot of them, in that area was a lot of Jewish women. So my high school, I would say was probably 70% predominantly Jewish.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
A lot of Indians, Jewish, few Italians, but it was, very well to do. So
So
you had,
Ray, did you have a few yarmulkes with like with the Yankees or the Jets or
not that I remember. I remember a lot of leg warmers. Remember the leg warmers?
Okay, all right. Leg warmers and tights.
Leg warmers, Capizio shoes, right? All that style with the hair, the flash dance style. That's
Yeah,
when I
yeah,
went to
yeah,
high
yeah.
school, right? With the whole flash dance era.
Sure. Hey, how did their parents like the fact that like you're an Italian guy? Aren't you like 100% Italian?
Yes, I wasn't I wasn't liked.
And
Like
are
I
you
was,
you're Catholic too, right?
I am.
Yeah, as am I. I dated a Jewish girl, and for whatever reason, the families, whenever I went to like a family event or anything like that, everybody there thought I was Jewish. So
Like
so I had a card, you know.
Right. So you'd have to meet these girls around the corner or whatever, like, and it'd be like, what? Oh, my parents aren't gonna like the fact that you're Italian. I'm like, well, I don't think my parents would
What
like the
about
fact
being
that you're
Roman
Jewish.
Catholic? Forget about the fact you're Italian.
Right. There's something against Italians now. Like, what's wrong with these Jews? Like, I didn't know. Like, oh, Italians, Jews. I thought, your
Hey,
grandmother
you
did.
worshipped a famous Jewish man,
You know
right?
what the funny thing? I had a Jewish grandmother.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. Okay.
Because my father's mother died at birth, and his uncle took him over.
Okay.
Took him because he didn't have any children, and I'm sure you remember he was a made guy he was a mafioso. He was a
Yes.
made
Yeah.
guy
Yeah.
in the Genovese family, so
Yeah.
that's how my father grew up, and he was married to a Jewish woman who was a flapper dancer,
Oh,
and
wow.
she wasn't accepted by the Italian family because those
Oh, yeah.
flapper dancers was considered crazy, loose women, whatever. She's a flapper
Oh,
dancer.
so it wasn't because she was Jewish. It was because she was a flapper dancer.
You're right. But you
Okay.
know what? She's not buried in St. John Cemetery. She's not buried with Sharky, my grandfather.
Yeah.
She's buried with her family.
Oh, okay. So I got to ask this. So did your Jewish Nona, did she make good Italian food?
No.
No.
When we go to her house, she went and got bagels. She didn't cook. Never cooked. Remember,
Okay. I was
her
just
whole life
curious.
she never had to cook. Sharky they lived in Jamaica States near
Yeah.
Donald Trump, right? They lived in Jamaica States, very, very well to do.
Okay.
And they had servants their whole life. She never
Oh,
cooked
they had servants?
their whole life. Servants.
Oh, wow.
Always. Chef. They lived in a big mansion, and
Yeah.
next time you're in New York, I'll take you to see it. Right
Yeah,
across the street from the
absolutely.
Trump house, from the Trumps in the Midland Parkway in Jamaica.
Okay. And that's where Donald Trump grew up?
That's where Donald Trump grew up.
Okay.
Yep.
They didn't have like
So,
a mini Trump Tower back then for him to live in?
yeah, it's not. It's like a ranch style house, so it's not too
Yeah.
crazy, but it's a nice house in a.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The neighborhood is what's worth it there. The neighborhood
Right.
still to this day is a multi-million-dollar neighborhood. You can't touch anything there for less than $2 million.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
it's expensive in New York. Wow.
It's expensive, but what's better there is the taxes are cheaper there than in Long Island.
Okay. Okay.
That's why you're not paying the school tax that you
Right.
pay in Long Island.
Right. Right. Okay, I got to ask this, Ray. So I know you mentioned some famous children that you went to school with in your boarding school. What about famous people you've just met out and about in New York, like super famous people? I know you've met some.
Well, I had my restaurant for years, and Chuck Zito from the Oz, and he was on Sons of Anarchy,
Okay.
and a few other things. He was Frankie Diamonds in Sons of Anarchy. He
Okay.
played Chuck Pelham, Chuck something on Oz for years and years and years, and he was a regular in my restaurant. He brought what's her name, Mariah Carey there once, but she went like he was hanging because he was a bodyguard to the stars. So he was a bodyguard to Angelina Jolie. He was a bodyguard. If you read his book, you'll see he was a bodyguard to Mickey Rourke. He was a bodyguard to Charlie Sheen.
How do you spell his last
Mariah
name?
Carey. So, and big car aficionado, huge motorcycle car. He has the motorcycle, and he brought it to my restaurant. That
Oh, wow.
was used in the movie Harley Davidson Marlboro Man.
Yeah.
That Harley that was used, and it says on the gas tank, owned by Mickey Rourke. The motorcycle is owned by Mickey Rourke, operated by Chuck Zito of the Hells Angels, used in the movie Harley Davidson. It says it right on the gas tank.
So Chuck Zito, Zitto?
Zitto.
Okay.
Oh,
He's a Hells
Zitto.
Angel, a
I'm
real
sorry,
Hells Angel?
Zitto.
And he was in the Hells Angels?
He was in the Hells Angels. He was the president of the New Rock chapter. And
wow.
in his book, because before he got out of the Hells Angels, he says that the only way to get out of the Hells Angels is to have that patch burnt or ripped off of you. The patch on their chest that says Hells Angels.
Yeah.
His actually, because he was a big shot. And he was trying to get into Hollywood. His says in the date that he got in the Hells Angels and the date that he got out, but he was allowed to keep his patch.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
So in the movie with Angelina Jolie, where she plays the model, the G or something, where it's a real story.
Uh-huh.
It's him riding her off on the motorcycle, like she wants to get high again, and he comes and picks her up and rides her off. He was, remember when Hulk Hogan and all those guys were doing the NWO wrestling thing years ago, and one time they had a bunch of Harley Davidsons circling around the place. Chuck Zito was in the lead of that. It was a whole bunch of Hells Angels, and it was his crew that did the scene in the Bronx Tale where all the motorcycles get into a fight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mariah Carey, when you met Mariah Carey, did you talk to her for a little bit?
For like 30 seconds. Chuck pulls up to the restaurant, right? He had called me and said he was coming, and I brought something out, some pizza out, and he says, Ray, do you know what this is? I'm like, yeah, that's Mariah Carey, right? And I was like, do you want to
Wow.
drink? But they were just, she didn't want to deal with any of that.
Oh, yeah, I bet not. I bet
No,
not.
it was just too busy. Just, that's why because he had called. Is it busy? I said, yeah, it's a little busy. And he said, all right, I didn't know why. Or somebody said, no, it's not busy. I didn't know he was asking because he had Mariah. And then what they were doing, I have no clue.
Yeah, that's funny. So any famous rock stars go in your restaurant back in the day?
Famous rock stars. Trying to remember.
Or wrestlers or anybody like that? I was just curious.
I'm good friends with a wrestler that just did a movie. You know him, Big Jim.
Yeah,
Did the
Big
movie
Jim.
on.
Yeah.
He plays Andre the Giant in that movie, The Brawler. Was it The Brawler?
Oh,
No, the
okay.
other one. The one about the real story of Rocky. Remember, there was two versions of that, and he plays
Ah,
Andre the Giant, and he's a real wrestler. He goes by the name Malta the Damager.
yeah. Oh, wow. Andre
Um,
the Giant. That's hard to pull off.
yeah, I'm trying to remember. Oh, he gained a lot. If you see him in the movie, I just saw him. He came to my house the other day. He's
Oh,
like
wow.
skinny as a rail now. He had to put
Oh,
on
wow.
weight for that scene.
Okay.
It took him a
Interesting.
while to take it off, but
Yeah. That's interesting.
So I used
Hey,
to have
Ray,
tons of Hell's Angels. I used to have tons and tons. There was a Hell's Angel bar in New Rochelle. There's a Hell's Angel bar right down the block.
Okay.
I'll say it. Dud's Pub was a big Hell's Angel bar. So I used to get a lot of Hell's Angels in my restaurant.
Okay.
And because of my friendship with Chuck Zito, no, these guys never, ever got rowdy, loud. I could tell them there's children behind you. Stop cursing. I'd be like, sorry, boss. Like
Oh,
nobody could
wow.
talk to Hell's Angels like that. But because of my relationship with Chuck, because Chuck introduced them to the place.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
So
interesting.
guys,
Wow.
and they'd be like, sorry. When did you ever hear a Hell's Angel guy say sorry to somebody? But
Right,
they would say sorry to me because I was friends with Chuck, because they didn't,
Right.
Chuck, don't have your friend, But it is what it is. I mean, great. Oh, Louis Conte was a famous musician.
Yeah.
That used to come to my place. He played guitar on. You would know the song. 8675309.
Oh, really?
He
The
plays
original
guitar on that.
recording?
With Tommy Two-Tone.
The original one?
The original one.
Wow.
Yep. He played with Ronnie James Dio. He jammed with Bruce Springsteen. You ready for this?
Go ahead.
He taught Les Paul's son how to play guitar. I'm like, why would Les Paul need you? Because Les Paul was a blues guy. The son wanted to learn rock. And Les Paul couldn't play that fast rock stuff. So he thought Lou was the best guy.
Oh, wow.
And Lou just passed this year at the age of 65.
Oh, man. Yeah, that sucks. That sucks.
Great guy. Very, very low key. He says,
Yeah.
he says I was jamming with Tommy Two Tone at the Coliseum, 20,000 people screaming my name one night. The next night I'm scrubbing toilets at Metro 700, which was a disco. Just how humble he was. One night, he's like, how to make money. He's like,
Yeah, he's
and he
making
wasn't
some more
getting paid
money,
enough for
huh?
the rock gigs,
Yeah. Hey,
because
you
he
got to
wasn't
do what
part
you
of the
got to do.
band. He was like, he was subbing in or whatever. So he
Hmm.
wasn't making millions, but he get paid. The next day he's scrubbing toilets.
Yeah, you got to do what
He
you got to
humbly
do.
used to tell that story all the time.
Hey, you know what? I get it. Hey, I'm going to let you just any funny stories that you can think of that you just want to share with my comedy audience,
Sure. So,
and or any
uh,
jokes. It's a free for all, Ray.
yeah, no. So I had a party at my house the other day, and Sal Ranella.
Yeah, I did.
Of course, Sal Ranella. So Sal calls me up and says, "Ray, I'm running a little late." I said, "What's the matter?" He goes, "Oh, I'm having trouble with my."
That's funny. Hey, okay. So back in the day when you're a bartender, any situations where like you had to bounce some people out of the bar?
Okay, so not because when I was bartending, it was in a steakhouse, so it was kind of.
Oh, okay.
But I did own a piece of a bar for a while in Queens
Okay.
called the Q Club, and it was, um, believe it or not, it was a gay-friendly bar because it was dedicated to the airline industry, and it was in between a location where a lot of these flight attendants had crash pads in between LaGuardia and JFK Airport, so they
Okay.
didn't know where they would be coming from. So this was a popular area in Kew Gardens that a lot of crash. So I was a partner in this bar, and one time a guy comes in and he starts um, making fun of a gay guy, that was there. And I didn't take that.
Yeah, that's not cool.
So I just didn't take it. The guy's sitting there, the guy didn't bother you. He didn't come up to you. He's like, I don't like this faggot in here. I don't like that. I'm like, bro, I'm going to bounce you out of here. Right. So the guy says to me, I'd like to see you try. All right.
Well, that's
So I
not
walked.
good.
Oh, dude, it was so funny because the guy's like, I'd like to see you try. So I'm like, all right, man. And the bar is like packed, right? And everybody's
Right.
watching this. So I said, dude, I'm going to. So I walk up behind the bar. Before I can even get to the chair, the guy runs out the door.
Oh, really? That's awesome, man.
He runs out. I mean, the whole bar was. He didn't think I was going to come out from behind the bar.
Yeah.
Another time, Brew, another time there was a fight in there. And I had nothing to do with it. It was just two other parties fighting, but it got like the whole bar got involved.
Right.
Right. And we used to have this guy, Alan Pardo. I still remember his name. This guy was like 7 foot tall. Right.
Wow.
And he just like he was the calmest guy in the world. Like you in the bar, we would cut. So he kind of just like jumped in the middle, and he kind of like this whole thing, like just like separated, like it was getting nasty for a while. They were in each other's faces, pushing each other.
Yeah.
Got
Yeah.
involved. But and then the cops came, right?
Yeah.
And after everybody cleared out, we found a butcher knife in the bar underneath one of the chairs. Somebody had a huge knife. Thank God.
Oh my God.
Thank God the cop, who knows what could happen, but they dropped it. I guess when the cops, they dropped that butcher knife. And I'm not there. One of the bartenders is closing. He stopped serving somebody. Told somebody, no, you got to leave. Da, 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 da. So the guy goes out cursing. The bartender locks up. The side stabs him from belly button all the way, ripped him open.
Whoa.
After that, I sold my piece.
I bet you did, man.
John, here's a funny
Go
story.
ahead. All right.
So I told you it was a gay-friendly bar. So we used to have. So the first night they asked me to work boys' night, I thought it was, they're like, yeah, we got the game on. I thought it was like a straight night, because they had a couple of gay nights there. There was gay bartending. And they're like, oh, Warren's working. And I'm like, I know Warren's gay. I'm like, boys' night. It was all gay guys watching football, and they're commenting on the guy's tights. They went to the game, but they're always like, oh, he's cute. I'm like, This is not how I'm used to watching football.
That's funny.
I'm not checking out the play, but here I am with gay guys. Check it out. I never worked another Monday night again.
That's
So,
funny.
yeah.
This is the time of the show where we promote business. So go ahead and promote your deli.
Nonna's Italian Deli, Brick Oven Pizza Italian Deli, located at 27 Covert Avenue in Floral Park, New York. nonnasitalian.com. We also, if you reach out to us and message us, I also ship gift baskets. So you can, I'm going to have them soon on our website, nonnasitalian.com. We also have an app. So if you can get Uber to deliver to you guys over in Texas or whatever. But Nonna's Italian brick oven shipped straight from Italy. We use flour straight from Italy, imported Caputo 00. We make our own fresh mozzarella. We make our own fresh pasta.
Wow.
And we make a whole bunch of things.
That's fantastic, man. That's awesome, Ray.
And we're going to be getting into the shipping, canned goods, and we can ship some salamis and coffee and a whole bunch of different things. We're going to get into doing some gift baskets that you can ship to family members and things like that. That's something we're going to be working on soon.
Man, I'm going to be hitting that website. That's awesome. That's really cool. Nothing better than sending my mom a great big salami for Christmas.
Where's your mom located?
She's in Missouri, right outside of Kansas City.
So let me know, dude. I have a shipping store right next door to me, so I get great deals on shipping as well.
Yeah, no, it won't be a problem. I mean, I will, like, that's what I did for her last year, was did a meat tray, because she's in a nursing home, and any time she gets like some kind of specialty food item, she's all about the food items. And she
I got marinated eggplant. I got all those the salamis, the super side, all the dried salamis and sausages.
Yeah.
And I got a whole bunch of canned stuff, olives,
artichoke,
eggplant, olives.
I'll be placing an order. That's awesome.
I'll take care of it. Yep.
That's awesome. Now, you don't worry about it. You make full profit on me. Don't worry about it. I'm going to go ahead and promote what I do.
I am John the Sales Warrior Sansoni. I've been professionally selling successfully for 34 years. What can I teach you? How to prospect, present, follow up, and most importantly, how to close. I have a 3-day masterclass that includes inspiration, motivation, and the mental tools to succeed in business and sales. My course includes worksheets, audio, video, and can be taken in 30 action blocks. Also included, how to have greater confidence. My course should be $400. If you get it today, $29.95. And included my book for free. Once purchased, you'll get free monthly inspiration from me. Just go to saleswarriorinspire.com and order yours today. That's it. Back to the show.
John, that sounds like a great deal. I can't understand how anybody wouldn't take advantage of that. I'm actually going to look into it myself. I mean, I consider myself a sales professional. I've been doing sales forever, for a long time. I worked for Pella Door and Window Company for a long time, doing high-end sales. I took sales courses. But John, that you can learn something every day.
Absolutely,
no matter how professional I thought I was, I always picked other guys' brain. How are you doing it? What are you doing? And one thing I always do in sales, John, is lie. I walk into a house, I see a Yankee poster, even though I'm a Met. Oh my God, I love the Yankees. Oh, Joe DiMaggio. Oh my God, please buy from me. I'm a big Yankee fan.
That's greatness. I love it.
Anytime somebody in the deli, are these your Nonna's meat? Yeah, my Nonna's meatballs recipe. You wouldn't believe it. Gee. I tell people that when my grandmother was on her deathbed, I had her make 20,000 meatballs. I mean, as a joke, I said I had her make 20,000 meatballs, and we unfreeze like 500, every year, just to share with the general public. And I'm down to like 1,000. So please enjoy these, because in a couple more years, no more. She's been dead 15 years, But in
Right.
a couple of years, we're not going to be able to enjoy my grandmother's meatballs. And every time I eat one of these meatballs, it's like giving my grandmother another hug. You know, on
I
her
love
deathbed,
it.
she made me 20,000 meatballs. I mean, the
On her
doctor said,
deathbed.
on her deathbed, the doctor said she had 3 or 4 days to live. I said, Grandma, can you make me some meatballs to remember you by? And she got out of that deathbed. And as soon as she made the last meatball, boom, dropped dead right there. She had to make me those 20, and I only take out 500 a year, John, of
Oh,
these
that's
meatballs.
greatness. Yeah. That's greatness,
And
right?
people looking at me like, and then right?
Right. I could just see her in her walker with the tennis balls cut up, sliding across the kitchen, making the meatballs on her, her last breaths on this earth.
I'm like, she
She's
was on her
making the
deathbed, and I
meatballs.
had her make 20,000 meatballs. People looking at me like, what do you want to die? You know, like.
That's greatness.
So I brought a whole bunch of friends. A buddy of mine is the vice president of a bank, and he has a beautiful house right on the water, 11
Oh,
bedroom
wow.
house on the water in Peconic Bay.
Okay.
His father was the president of Astoria Federal Savings Bank. He's the vice president of more.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Big buck,
Not
but a good friend of mine.
not a
He's my
small
financial
company.
advisor. We've become great friends. We're actually
Yeah.
going to see the Mets again tomorrow. So I brought a whole bunch of stuff, right? He invited us out for the weekend, like last month. So
Yeah.
we went there, and there was a whole bunch of people there, and there was a whole bunch of stuff on the table. And there's these Swedish meatballs, right, on the table that he put out. So somebody asks, "Are these your meatballs?" The whole story about my grandmother. You know, these were my grandmother's meatballs, and I'm telling them. And every time, if you eat one, you know, don't eat it fast. You gotta think about my grandmother when you eat it. And these people like eating the whole thing up, and I'm like. And then at the end of the story, they're like, "Oh my God, Steve!" I'm like, "Why would my grandmother make Swedish meatballs?" And
Right. Your Jewish grandmother, right?
What?
So you had an Italian grandmother and a Jewish grandmother?
Right, but I said my Italian because they said, "Oh, was this?" I said, "Yeah." I said, but at the end, after I told them the story, I said, "Why?" You know, and then I said it was a joke. I said, "Why would my grandma?" "Oh yeah, I was kind of wondering." Because they was like these little Swedish meatballs, and I'm telling the story about my grandmother.
That's greatness. My granddad was 100% Sicilian, but he married a woman who was English and Irish, I guess, English, Irish. But she had learned all my aunt's cooking recipes. So she was actually a pretty good Italian cook. I mean, that's that's where I got all my Italian food, and or my granddad's aunts, or my granddad's sisters. They were my aunts. My granddad's sisters. They threw down some amazing food. Hey Ray, we're gonna wrap up this episode of School's Out 80s Comedy Story Time. So I'll say goodbye to everybody. This is John the Sales Warrior coming to you from Dallas, Texas, saying goodbye, everybody. And Ray, say goodbye to everybody at School's Out 80s.
Everybody, school's out. Too cool
Awesome.
for school.
Cheers, everybody.
School's